Good morning. Today we're going to be working on integers and learning what they are and how they are demonstrated in the real world. These notes are going to go on page 45 and 46. This page is on 46. This one is on 45. So when we start this lesson, just please make sure that you've gotten the topic and essential question. Pause the video if you need to make sure that you do it. If you could, make sure that you have your page numbers on it. You also might want to go back to your table of contents and make sure that it's up to date. Our essential question for this lesson is, what are integers and how are they demonstrated in the real world? What is this number that we're talking about and how do we really apply it? By the time we're done with this lesson, which is on number systems, unit or standard number 5, you should be able to use integers in the real world situations. Now, to begin this discussion, I'm actually going to skip the first two sections on positive and negative numbers, and I'm going to go all the way down to where it talks about integers, and we're going to start our notes there, because I think it's important for us to begin there, because negative and positive numbers are different versions of integers. So I want to start with integers and understand what that is, and then we can kind of classify within that category. So the first thing you need to know about an integer is a whole number. It is not a fraction. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 223, 3,067,000. Those are all integers, but 1/2 would not be. You also need to understand that they can be positive or negative. So not only can it be 1, but it could also be -1 or -327. So either way, it works. So now that we understand that an integer is a whole number, it's not a fraction, and it can be positive or negative. Now let's talk about positive and negative numbers. So let's go back up here to positive. So for positive numbers are numbers that are bigger than 0. So what numbers are bigger than 0 that are whole numbers? 1, 2, 3, like I said earlier, 78, 328, all of those are bigger than 0, and they're all positive. When you write a positive number, you can write it with a positive sign, which looks like that, or you don't have to write it with anything. So you could have a positive 6, or you could have a 6. Either would mean the same thing. They both mean positive 6. I typically don't use the plus sign in the beginning unless I really must, because it to me just kind of confuses me because I think it's an addition sign. So it's up to you what you want to do. Now negative numbers, on the other hand, negative numbers are less than 0. So they're the numbers that are on the other side of 0. So they are also always written with a negative sign. So it looks like that. So we would show the example of -6. So -6 always has to have that symbol in front of it for you to clarify that it's -6, because otherwise you wouldn't know what it is. So you want to always make sure that you use your negative sign. So once again, integers, whole numbers, they can be positive and negative. Positive numbers, bigger than 0, they can be written with the sign, or they don't need the sign. It's really up to you.
Mr. Roddy, please dial extension
Then
202.
we have negative numbers.
Please dial extension 202.
I apologize for that interruption. Negative numbers are less than 0, and they always have the negative sign. So now let's just finish up that discussion about integers. Integers, when you have them on a number line, oops, I already have number line in there. Okay, a number line. They are we have opposites. Now think about opposites in language arts. You've got tall, short, round, square, black, white. All of these are considered opposites because they're on different sides of the spectrum. The same thing is true about opposites in math. They are numbers that are the same. Sorry, I have to squish that in there because of my notes. They are the same distance from 0, but on different sides of 0. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Now, when we draw number lines, you can have a vertical or a horizontal number line. This is a horizontal number line. You're probably used to seeing that. But I'm going to draw over here. I'm actually going to turn my paper, and I'm going to draw a vertical number line. So I'm at the side of my paper, as you can see, and I'm going to draw this vertical number line. And this is going to be my 0 spot. Okay, so now that I drew it, I like to flip it to make it easier for me. On a number line, you're going to have numbers like positive 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are probably what you're used to seeing. Now we're going to start talking about, we have also on this side of 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. Now you'll notice that I have a 5 here and I have a 5 here. They're both the same amount of places or steps from 0. So if I were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 5 spaces from here to here. If I were to go to negative 5, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 spaces from here to here. They're the same distance. Therefore, negative 5 and 5 would be considered opposites on the number line. Think about other numbers that would be opposite on the number line. 3 and negative 3. 1 and negative 1. Those are all opposites because they're the same distance from 0 on the number line. Alright, so now let's start looking at some real-world application. If I have the integer negative 6, an example of this might be in the real world that in a bank account, and if I had a bank account and I had negative 6, it would mean that I had a loss of $6, or I spent $6. So when you look at my bank account, you'll see I put my paycheck in, and then I pay my gas bill, and then that comes out, and that would be a negative number coming out of my bank account. When I put my paycheck in, that's a positive number coming in. And so there you can see how that's a negative or a positive being used in the real world. In this situation, the meaning of 0 would be no loss or gain. It would just be a blank, empty balance. You haven't added money or taken money away. How about this one? If we had plus 100 or positive 100. This could be like 100 feet above sea level. So think of like a hill or a mountain. You always hear about you're this far above sea level. Well, that's how many feet in the positive you are. Now, if you were to be a scuba diver and you're going underneath the water, you would be in a negative, where you're going down below the sea level. And in this case, the meaning of 0 would be sea level. It's where the ocean meets the beach. It's sea level. So let's try one more. Negative 3. This could be an example of 3 degrees below 0. Now, in temperature, if you remember when we in math made ice cream, we talked about how 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of liquids. So the meaning of 0 would here be 0 degrees Celsius. And so anything below that point would be below the freezing point. So this would be the freezing point. And anything below that would be below freezing. So when we added salt, we actually got a temperature below freezing. And as it gets warm, you're then looking at above the freezing point. So those are some good examples of how we see integers used in real life. Now, on your own, you're now going to come over here and you're going to give your own explanations. Now, you can use some of the ones that we already had. That's fine. If you want to use the bank account or temperature or the sea level, that's totally cool. Just, I want you to think of your own examples. Look at the 3 integers below. Give 2 real-life situations where you could use the integers to represent the situation. So for each one of these, you're going to write 2. So for example, like we already stated, for 0, you could put sea level. You could put freezing point of water. Any of those things. A 0 bank balance. So you're going to give me your examples. They can be ones that we've already given, or you can make up your own. Try to be creative, but really think about what is an integer, what's a positive or negative number, and how does it work in the real world. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.